Are you a project manager who didn't pass your first attempt at the PMP certification exam? If so, this week's episode is for you. Better Projects Today is the bite-sized project management podcast helping you to bridge theory and practice in your own work to create better teams, better results, and better projects today. I'm Tyler Norman, and I bring 15 years of experience as a global program leader and serial mentor to project professionals across the world. This episode is in response to the experience a close friend of mine had recently, but this is a question I also get all the time from folks who unfortunately didn't pass their first PMP exam attempt. If it's not clear from that framing, this happens all the time. So with that, I'm going to go through 4 steps that I generally recommend for folks that come to me having had this experience. First things first, breathe and recognize that you are one of a high volume of folks who have had this experience. It's very normal not to pass your first time on the PMP. While PMI doesn't post precise stats in terms of how many folks don't pass on the first attempt, if you look online, you'll find quotes for anywhere from 30% to 50% reported. Many capable professionals tell the story of how they didn't pass on the first try, and then they went on to have incredible project management careers. This is a really tough exam, and pass rates are tough, nerves are real. PMI does not write easy exams. As someone who holds 6 PMI certifications, I haven't taken one easy exam. They're all challenging in their own unique way. The key here is this doesn't define your career or your potential. Realize that this is a relatively normal experience and it's not going to define you. The next step is to take a good hard look at why you didn't pass. First things first, look at your score report. Your score report is a key insight into areas that you may want to work on as you prep for your next attempt. Which domains were weak? Did you not get through all the questions? That can be a key insight. Next, think about your prep methods. Was your study plan structured well enough, or was it a little bit too loose and freewheeling? Was it too structured? Did you find yourself getting burned out and feeling as though you showed up to the exam just exhausted? Were you using the right materials? Were you using those recommended by PMI? And then lastly, take a hard look in the mirror around stress, timing, exam conditions. Thoughts and opinions of Tyler Norman. I don't recommend taking your exam at home because it introduces a lot of variables such as internet connectivity, other folks in the house, power. I've had storms knock out my power during key things. So think about those conditions, the stress level. Do you have a lot going on at home right now? Did you build it up too much in your head? Take a good hard look at why were you not successful in that first attempt? Next, build a smarter plan. And a smarter plan doesn't mean a dramatically different plan. A smarter plan is around setting realistic goals based on why you think you didn't pass the first time, looking at gaps that you identified in your knowledge. Maybe in that last step, you realized that there was a specific topic that kept coming up and you didn't feel like you knew it well enough. Think about the tools you're going to use. Maybe you try some different tools like a boot camp, a simulator, a study group. Maybe you're using the same tools. Maybe it's just something about your test prep or your stress management, your timing that you change. A key here is don't just try to study harder. Don't feel like you just need to put your foot on the gas. Study smarter. And sometimes studying smarter means things like instead of cramming all night, you're going to time box it down to an hour or 2 each evening so that you don't burn out. Figure out why you didn't pass the first time, and then make adjustments in your plan, however big or small they need to be moving forward. Last step, schedule it and get back to work. Try not to delay too long if you fail your exam at the first attempt, because you might find that you have to relearn things that you knew before. By the same token, don't schedule it for a few days later and just throw another dart at the wall. The sweet spot I generally recommend is 1 to 2 months later, because that's generally enough time to reset, refocus, make some changes without losing all the momentum of that studying you've done before, but come up with your own date. The key here is maintain momentum without overstressing yourself, and then rebuild your confidence with a mix of review and application. If you've done nothing but hammer the book, maybe it's time to hit the practice exams a little bit harder. If you are seeing practice exams when you close your eyes at night, maybe it's time to back up and do some simulators or something that changes the pace a little bit. The key here is you've got the map, you understand what you need to do, you've got quite a bit more learning based on your first attempt. So reset your plan and then get back to work with more clarity around what it's going to take. In closing, I want to touch on one thing that I think is very important for the PMP exam specifically, and that is test taking strategy. I like to say that for PMI exams, it's the knowledge is an absolute requirement. Test taking strategy without the knowledge, you're obviously not going to be able to pass. But knowledge without test taking strategy is going to make it really difficult as well. So let's dig in on test taking strategy a little bit. PMI exams are hard, and there's a lot of information included on questions that you don't need. There's very specific information that you need to identify in a question. I always give the example that you're going to read some questions and there's going to be what look like 3 correct answers, but then you're going to realize that there are a couple unique pieces of information given in the question that eliminate 2 of those 3 potentially correct answers. So with that, think hard about your test strategy. The most common reason for failing I hear around the PMP exam is that you ran out of time. So again, thoughts and opinions of Tyler Norman. What I recommend with your PMP exam is do a quick first pass. This is something I've done for every single one of my PMI related exams, and it's worked very well. And that is, I read through the question, I read it, digging in a little bit, I read it, I read the answers, I read the question again. So that tells me what's the information in front of me, what kind of answers are available, and then I go back and look for what would help me connect the dots. If I do those 3 steps and I don't understand what the question is asking, or I think I'm going to have to look a couple more times, I flag it and I move on. And I do a first pass through all of the questions, only answering those that I'm able to read. Okay, I know what they're asking for. That doesn't mean I know the answer off the top of my head, but I know what the question is asking, and I know I can get through it relatively quickly. What generally happens if you take that approach is you get through your whole first pass, you get all the ones you should get, and then you dig in on the more challenging ones. And the percentage of the tests that you end up flagging is going to vary. I've had exams where my first pass had 80% of the questions were answered, and I had a small percentage to go back and dig in on. The PGMP exam, I think I flagged 75 or 80% of them, and my first pass didn't have a very high yield, but that's okay. That was the point, is I got all the ones I should get, and then I was able to go back and take more time on the ones that were going to take some more detailed thinking. Your strategy doesn't have to be that. Your strategy can be whatever it is, but think about, when are you going to use the restroom? When do you need a little break? Some folks need 30 to 40 minutes and then a break. Some folks can lock in for the full 4 hours. Think about those things and then include it in your practice exams. If you're planning to if it's a 4-hour exam and you're planning to take a break at 2 hours to use the restroom, build that into your practice exam so that you get used to that way of thinking. That brings us to the end of the episode. If there's one thing you take away, I want you to take this. This is a setback, not a full stop. A lot of folks have had this experience, and after you pass the exam on your next attempt, nobody's going to care that it took 2 attempts. I'll also ask, share your own PMP story in the comments below. Did it take you a couple tries? Is there something you would recommend? Share your own PMP story so that folks that come along into this episode in the future can learn from yours as well. Thanks again for watching the episode. If you have a topic or a question you would like to see addressed in a future episode of Better Projects Today, throw it in the comment below.